Good morning, everyone. So still have 2 minutes left. So may I request everyone to turn on their videos just to say hi. Hello, good morning, Saswat. Good morning, Sanjeev.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Professor Sangam.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
So may I request the rest to also turn on their videos. So Pianuch and Suchitra, can you turn on your videos, please? So like last week, we will also be going on live on Facebook page of WEM. So if possible, please share it with your colleagues, friends, and families, because it's going to be a social media event. Also an academic, of course, but also a social media event. So I think it's the more we share, the better. So yeah, I already shared on my timeline also some of the professional groups of Vietnamese, water researchers. So I request that if possible, each of you also can try to share for this event of our department. So for those who came late, a bit later, can I request you to also share your videos, please? So yes. Hello, Santos. Hello, Skalaya. Good morning, Jayupon. Hello, Pinto-san. Hello, Prakya. Okay. I think that's just about everyone, because I think a good portion of our classmates are now busy with their final modeling exam. So 14 of them. So I think we can start now. So before we start with our usual schedule of the presentation, I have an announcement to make. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay. So we already saw this slide, right, in last week, but I make a small amendment that before I asked each of the presenters to send the following information to Khun Yani and me one day before, but actually I did not receive anything, but Khun Yani already received. So when you send the email, also CC to me, just for the record. And then also, since the exams I have already over, so I request that you send in the information 1 week, not 1 day, before the presentation. So the change in timing is basically because we need to prepare for the flyers, and then also we need to upload it into the social media platform. So please send it 1 week before, so that we have a good amount of head time to prepare. And one more note is that in the previous slide, I did not ask you to send your profile picture. However, I think it will be better if you can share your most updated profile picture. It does not have to be very, strict and straightforward thing, but of course it should look a little professional, right? Profile picture in good quality, a topic of your presentation, a short abstract of your presentation, and introduction of your academic background. The last 2 items should be written in words, 200 words, right? So please try to send this information to Khun Yani and also CC to me, myself, 1 week before the presentation. So let's say our next presentation will be on 26. So the presenters, please send in your information on 19, the latest, so that we can prepare the flyers and also make announcement to all of the on the social media. Okay, so with that, I will stop share now. And then, so for today's presentation, we will have today's seminar. We will have presentations from two ladies. So first one is Ms. Pragya, who will talk about her topic on hydrological modeling, right? No, sorry, Shakti. And then the next one would be Ms. Mon, two of which have prepared a very professional flyers, which I had the chance to share earlier. So with that, I will pass to Ms. Shakti, and then I will make you co-host to share the screen. Okay, so Shakti, can you share your screen?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lam. So, it's visible, right? Can you see my screen? Yes, okay. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Locke and also WEM for providing this opportunity. So actually, this is part of my dissertation work, the first objective, titled Multiple Drivers of Hydrological Alteration in the Transboundary Shreveport River Basin of the Lower Mekong region. So this is the outline of my presentation. So first, I will give a brief background. The anthropogenic changes in both land and water resources adversely affect the global hydrological regimes. Although hydropower is the most increased renewable energy source in the world, hydropower dams tend to change the downstream hydrology. As you can see in this figure, the two hydrographs are presented in this figure, which is pre-dam and post-dam condition. So in the post-dam condition, which is in the red color, the hydrograph has been attenuated due to the hydropower regulations. So these hydrological alterations of the natural flow regime is considered to have a significant damaging and widespread impact on the riverine ecosystem and livelihoods, and especially on the fish spawning stimulus. Therefore, this study analyzes the observed impact of changes in land use, climate, and hydropower developments on the hydrological regime. So the problem in hand is that although the flood pulses in the 3S river influences both primary and secondary fish production and also determines the reproductive migration of fish species, due to rapid developments and ongoing hydropower developments in the Mekong Basin, the downstream water patterns are changing. And although there are several studies which have examined the potential impact of existing planned dams in the Mekong Basin, the combined effect of the dams with the adverse hydrologic consequences of climate is still remain unknown. Therefore, identifying these connections between the multiple drivers and the hydrological alterations could help decision makers to design more effective and sustainable water management policies. So the main objective of this study is to investigate hydrological alterations due to multiple drivers in the Shreveport River Basin. So based on the three multiple drivers, 4 specific objectives were defined. First is to assess the annual land use change in the baseline period. Second is to assess how climate has changed in the baseline period. Third is to identify developments in the water-related infrastructure in the baseline period. And finally, the fourth is to identify the impacts of above changes and developments on the hydrological regime. So the study area for the study is Shreveport River Basin, which is one of the tributary of the 3S River Basin. So 3S River Basin is the only transboundary tributary of Mekong River. So you can see in this figure. And Mekong River is the second richest river in the world for its fish diversity. The 3 tributaries of 3S River is Sekong, Sesan, and Shreveport. So the catchment area is around 8,000 kilometers squared, which belongs to 3 countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos PTR. So out of the 3 tributaries, Sekong, Sesan, and Shreveport River Basin has the highest fish diversity. So that's the reason the selection for selecting Strait of River Basin for this study. So the catchment area of the Strait of River is around 30,000 kilometers squared, and which falls in two countries, Vietnam and Cambodia. And the rainfall is around 1,900 millimeters. So in this figure, you can see the planned commissioned dams in the Strait of Basin. So moving on to the data collection. So data is used for this study includes geospatial data, which includes topography map and also land use map in a 300 meter resolution. And it's in annual frequency from 1992 to 2015. So the annual land use maps were downloaded from the ESA website from 1992 to 2015. And hydrological data include discharge data at the Bandon station, which is in the midstream of the basin. From the years of data from 1985 to 2016 is used in the study. So meteorological data includes 1 temperature station and 3 rainfall stations with data from 1981 to 2015. And for reservoir properties, 6 hydropower dams were considered, which is shown here. And they vary from the period 1990 to 2010. And you can, in this figure, you can see the Bandon station where the hydrological analysis is considered. So the upstream of that basin is, the area is considered for this study. And the area, locations of the 6 dams and rainfall and temperature stations is also shown in this figure. So the methodology, I have divided it based on the objectives. So the first objective is to find the change, correlations between land use and indicators of hydrological alterations in terms of indicated parameters. So the land use data from ESA software was downloaded from ArcGIS, and they were reclassified into 10 classes, and then the changes in land use was analyzed. And similarly, meteorological data of rainfall and minimum and maximum temperature was taken, and the annual changes in rainfall and minimum maximum temperature was analyzed. And then indicators of hydrological alternate software or IHS software was used at the Bandon station, the Bandon hydrological data. So this gives 2 analyses, which is single period and 2 period. So the single period gives 2 parameters, which are indicators of hydrological alteration and environment flow components. So these indicators were correlated with the land use, annual land use, in order to see the correlations between land use and hydrological regime. And also these indicators were again correlated with the annual rainfall and minimum and maximum temperatures in order to see the correlations between climate and the hydrological indicators. And in the 2 period analysis, it provides pre and post impact effects on these indicators in terms of the changes of these indicators based on the impact period. So the impact periods were taken from the reservoir development data or the years of the commission of these reservoirs. And then using this data, the changes in the hydrological regime in pre and post impact period was analyzed. So moving on, here I'm presenting the hydrological indicators used in this study and also the ones provided from the IHS software. So it includes 67 parameters, which are 30 out of them, 33 are indicators of hydrological alteration and 34 are environment flow components. So this is indicators of hydrological alteration, and this shows the environment flow components. And in IHS parameters, it has divided into 5 groups based on different indicators of the hydrograph. So for example, first one group shows the mean monthly flows, and the second shows gives the minimum and maximum 1 day, 90 day, and also base flow indices. So I have actually calculated all the indices, but for the results and analysis part, I will be presenting the most significant and the indicators which are more relevant to fisheries. So for example, the frequency and duration of high and low flow pulses is a very indicator which affects fisheries. So it gives the number and mean duration of high and low flow pulses, and it shows the nutrient and organic matter exchange between the river and flood plains. And in environment flow component indicators, it divides the hydrograph into 5 components as low flows, extreme low flows, high flows, small floods, and large floods. I will explain this in terms of visual representation in the next slide. So here I'm presenting the visual indication of these hydrological and environment flow components at the Bandon station in the year 2013. So in this hydrograph, you can see they have extreme low flows, high flow, and small floods. So these are calculated based on these definitions. And also high flow pulses are calculated by the mean flow plus standard deviation, and low flow is calculated using mean minus standard deviation. So the low flow threshold is calculated as 14 and high flow threshold is 529. So based on these thresholds, the high and low flow pulses for each year is calculated. For example, in this year 2013, these are the low flow pulses and these are the high flow pulses. And based on the extreme low flows are calculated by the initial flows which are below 10% of the daily flows, and low flows are the flows which are below 75% of the daily flows, and the ones which are higher is high flows. And small floods and large floods are calculated based on their return period interval. And also one of the most significant indicator is reversals, which shows a change in the hydrograph from increasing to decreasing or a decreasing to increasing. So this IHS software is capable of calculating the number of reversals in and each year. So moving on to results and discussion. So here I'm presenting the changes in hydrological regime in terms of IHA parameters. So in this first figure, it shows the mean and low flows of the abandoned station for the whole period. And as you can see, there's a declining in the mean and low flows in the basin. And it is also indicated in this figure, which shows the number of pulses in terms of low and high pulses. So there is no common pattern in the high pulses, but as you can see, the blue pulses are increasing. So it attributes to this declining trend in the discharges, and also it could attribute to the declining rainfall pattern in the basin. And this figure shows the average pulse in terms of days. But there is no significant relation in both number of low and high pulse days. So moving on, so this is the change in hydrological regime in terms of EFC parameters or environment flow components. So these EFC parameters divide the hydrograph into 5 sections, which is extreme low flow, high flow, small floods, and large flood. As you can see in this figure, in this for the whole period, there are 3 large floods recorded. And also it gives the frequency of these different flood levels of which is extreme low flows, high flows, small floods, and large floods. As you can see in this, there's a significant increasing in the extreme low flow and high flow in the recent years. So moving on to the 3 drivers. So the first driver is climate. So here I'm trying to find the baseline changes in the climate in terms of rainfall and minimum and maximum temperature. So here I'm presenting the rainfall in Bon Matot, Bon Ho, and Bandon Station, and also the TCN average rainfall. So the TCN average rainfall shows a declining pattern in the recent years, and also minimum and maximum temperature is presented here. So the maximum temperature shows a declining pattern, although the minimum temperature shows an increasing pattern. And here it shows the spatial variation of the rainfall. So both Bandon and Bon Matot had the most rainfall. So moving on to the connections between climate and hydrological regime. So here I have calculated the correlations between annual rainfall in the 3 stations and also in the average rainfall, and the correlations with this rainfall with the hydrological indicators. So here I'm presenting the most significant results in terms of their coefficient of correlation and also significance based on a p-test. So the blue shows the positive correlation, whereas brown shows a negative correlations. So rainfall and 30-day maximum and 90-day maximum indicator shows a positive correlations, whereas rainfall and large flood fall rate shows a negative correlation. And also in minimum and maximum temperatures, it is the similar diagram shows the correlation coefficient and also the significance. So high flow frequency showed a negative correlation with both minimum and maximum temperatures. So although a positive correlation with the high pulse duration 30-day maximum, 90-day maximum showed, they could be attributed to the increased rainfall intensity, although the rainfall shows a decreasing pattern. And also the range of temperature correlation coefficient of temperature, minimum and maximum temperature is smaller than that in the correlation in the rainfall. So moving on to the second indicator, second driver, which is land use. So here I'm presenting the percentage change in land use relative to previous year. So land use based on the 10 classes are presented here. So the land use change relative to 1992 is presented in 1993. So the blue columns indicate a positive change and red columns indicate a negative change. So as you can see, evergreen forest, deciduous forest and shrublands show a negative change in land use relative to the previous year, whereas all other land uses show an positive change. And of the positive change land use, urban area shows the highest change, increasing in the land use. And here I'm showing the two land use in the in 1992 and in 2015. As you can see, the green, which is evergreen forest, has decreased, and you can see increase in the yellow and red, which shows cropland and herbaceous cover. And then again, I calculated the correlations between the land use and the hydrological regime in terms of the hydrological indicators. So here also I'm presenting the most correlated indicators with the different land uses. So the here correlation was range was much higher. It was from 0.85 to minus 8.83. And the two land uses, evergreen and deciduous, showed a different pattern relative to the other land uses. As you can see, evergreen and deciduous shows an increasing pattern with fall rate and reversals, whereas all others shows a decreasing pattern. So the evergreen and deciduous forest land cover appear to behave in a different manner compared to other land use. And the highest positive correlation of 0.85 was recorded between urban area land cover and reversals, which therefore the reversals could be assumed to be increasing along with the land cover of urban areas. And the highest negative correlation is mostly between fall rate and high fall rate, which shows significant correlations in all land uses, but except for evergreen and deciduous forests. So moving on to the third indicator, which are hydropower development. So 6 hydropower developments was considered, which are Srepok 4, Srepok 3, Boon Trausa, Boon Koop, and Dry Hind 1 and Dry Hind 2 dams. So their year of operation is the most considered parameter, because for the pre and post impact analysis of the IHA software, the input was given from the year of operation. So the impact of the hydrological regime was analyzed using range of variability approach in the IHA software. So RAV, or the range of variability, is only available for the IHA indicators and not for the EFC parameters. So here I'm presenting the results from the pre and post dam conditions or the connections between developments in the basin and hydrological regime. So based on 1 dam construction, 2 dam construction, 5 dam and 6 dam. So the cumulative dam in their pre and post are shown here. And so these are the indicators of IHA parameters, the 33 indicators, and this is positive and negative correlations. So a positive hydrological alteration of this pre and post impact shows a value that frequency of value means that the frequency of values in the category has increased from pre-impact to the post-impact period. And of the all dams, the 1 dam construction or Dry Hind 1 has the significant impact on the hydrological regime. And also positive correlation was shown in these indicators, and negative correlation was shown mostly in the fall rate and number of reversals. So based on above results, these conclusions were made. So three different drivers, land use, rainfall, and temperature, affect different aspects of the hydrological regime, but they are interrelated. So they should all be considered together. And the highest and lowest IH and EFC parameters in land use was 0.85 to minus 0.83. Rainfall was from 0.78 to minus 0.54, and minimum and maximum was 0.42 to minus 0. So out of this, land use has the most significant correlations with the hydrological indicators. And of the three drivers, fall rate was significantly affected hydrological alteration parameter in all three drivers. And based on the two period analysis, Dry Hind 1 dam, which was built in 1990, had the most impact on the hydrological regime relative to the other dams. And so this is a reference of the software, IHS software, and also this study is published in Journal of Environment Management. So I'd like to thank Professor Sangam and also the committee members, including Dr. Hana, and thank you.
Okay, so yeah, since we are social distancing, please show the reactions as applause for Ms. Shakti for a very insightful and yeah, this is a great presentation. So now let me open the floor for questions and comments, please. So for those of you wants to ask questions, please unmute yourself and then just go ahead and ask questions. Thank you.
Hello, Shakti.
Hello.
My name is Sonu. As you know that my questions is related to your selection of number of stations. So what is your criteria to select the number of stations in the basin?
Sorry, number of?
Number of rainfall stations. Like you have taken only the 3 stations, right?
Yes, actually the data availability was the criteria. So.
Okay. So my next question is related to the correlations. Like firstly, you convert the point data into the aerial data using the Thesian polygon method, right?
Yes.
And then the Thesian polygon method, you got the rainfall data using the Thesian polygon method on the yearly scale, and then you compare the correlation between the rainfall data as well as the IHA data, right?
Yes, but at the point scale, I used only the point data, like I have showed.
So can you share me that slide? But that slide was very interesting.
So actually I have calculated at the point of the 3 stations and also the average rainfall.
Okay. So you have calculated the correlations at each station as well as the average stations, right?
Yeah.
So what was your correlation, like variables? Like first was the rainfall, which was on the yearly scale, or the 30 days
annual scale.
Annual scale, right? Yeah. Okay. I got it now. Thank you so much, Shakti.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Sonu Kumar. Let's have 1 to 2 more questions before we move on to the next presenter.
Yeah, Shakti, I have one question.
Yes, Saurabh.
Actually, I wanted to ask the question on the same slide, and you are on the same slide 14, number 14. Yeah. So from your conclusion, you found that rainfall is on the second position as when you check the correlation. Yeah. But here you mentioned that this may be due to increased rainfall intensity.
Yes.
So this is best your assumption, or do you do some trend analysis to see that the rainfall intensity is really increasing, or some other parameters are increasing?
No, actually this is based on an assumption.
Okay.
I didn't conduct
trend. So it can be done. Yeah. If you want, then we can see and just validate that rainfall intensity is really increasing or not.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. So let me remind everyone that when you start to ask questions, maybe spend 30 seconds, 1 minute to introduce yourself so everyone knows. Okay, thank you.
So, hi, Saki. Can I? Yeah, actually, it's not a question. So because it's not like a cover the whole dissertation, right? So maybe we'll like up some parts of the research. some short minutes. So firstly, thank for very nice presentation. My recommendation is, I see the second output of you is to try to explore the change of the hydrological regime by use the IHA.
Yes.
And but I mean I want to know at the end. I want to see like how the effect of understanding on the water management, how to bring the indicator meaning to the policy maker. We see like some nice figure, some nice table, and an indicator analysis. We want to see how to transfer it in terms of the policy maker or water management. So that's my recommendation. So maybe what you're still working on. So I think at the end, maybe you have the other
Yes.
output. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tuan. Actually, this is my first objective, so I'll be like carrying this same work in the coming work. So
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Tuan. Maybe you introduce yourself a bit.
Sorry, yeah, my name is Chuan. I'm postdoctoral researcher. My focus is on groundwater surveys and modeling. Thanks, Dr. Lok.
Okay, so I think time is ticking, but we still have time for one more question, please.
Can I have one question, sir?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So, yeah, my name is Rex Mayang. I'm also a former student from WEM, and I graduated in 2019. So now I'm doing my PhD in Japan. It's a nice to meet you all here, and I know some people here. And yes, let's say hello to Sir Sangam also. He's also my advisor. And thank you, Shakti, for your good presentation and very concise information on your study. And I have one question related to your land use analysis. So based on your analysis, land use categories, you categorize based on some land use classification, or I mean, which category that you adapt to categorize your land use classification on your study area?
I actually not a specific like classification, but I just took 10 land use classes which like were which had highest percentages and classified it based on that, not for a specific classification, like not like spot for format or anything.
I see. And this is just for the past period only, right? Up to 2015, not in the future. So do you have any plan to see how the land use change in the future impact on some hydrology indicator?
Yes, actually that's a good research. But for now, I will not use future analysis for the land use.
But I mean, do you have any plan to conduct those kind of research for your future or another
not
part
for
of your
my
thesis?
the dissertation, like not, it will not be in the other objectives.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahman.
Thank you.
Okay, it's so great to have an alumnus joining us today. So thank you very much, Mr. Rasmi. So I'm a new faculty here. I'm also graduated from WEM in 2014. So it's really good to see you here.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on to the next presentation, I just want to have one question. It's not too related to the topic, but okay, so I see you do a lot of correlations, a lot of statistics, but my question is, like, have you ever thought about the hypothesis, all of the hypotheses first before doing the statistics, or you run all the statistics and come to the conclusion?
Actually, it's the second. I have not defined the hypothesis first. I check the most correlated ones, and then only I am giving conclusions. Yes,
yes, I guess so, because you see a lot of the matrices. But actually, that's also one of the the practice that everyone do. I myself also did that. But actually, I learned it a hard way, that sometimes we show a really good correlations, but we cannot explain it scientifically. So correlations, basically you just like playing with data, And then, some of the correlations does not have the causal meaning to it. So please, it will be better if you think about it from a hydrological point of view, from a geomorphological point of view, landscape point of view. Does it make sense to correlate or not before actually checking it? So that would be my suggestion. Okay, so since to make it this one more memorable to everyone, this is my favorite quote of statistics. If you torture the data long enough, it will confess to everything. So be mindful. Okay, so thanks. So everyone, please give applause to Shakti for a very informative and very good presentation indeed.
Thank you, Dr. Lock, and thank you everyone for listening.
Okay, so let me move on to our next presenter of today. May I invite Ms. Mon to share her screen as well? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Lock, for this opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is Mon, and I would like to present my research on analysis of water energy carbon nexus in selected industry. So this is the outline of the presentation. There will be an introduction, which will include the scope of study, objectives, rationale, and it will be followed by data collection and methodology, results and discussion, and conclusion and recommendations. So in the production of a product, water and energy are one of the two vital resources. And according to OECD Outlook 2050 report, since the 1980s, the world water use has been rise on 1%, and industrial sector alone account for 19% of total water withdrawal and more than 50% of global energy consumption. Between 2018 to 50, the world industrial energy use is to increase by more than 30%. And even though the carbon emission from coal is on a decrease, emissions from oil and natural gases are increasing. And because global change, climate change is a reversible effect, there are many companies going for clean energy transition throughout these years. So this is the relationship between the water energy carbon nexus. Since the population has been on the rise, economic increases, the living standard of people also increases, and these require more energy and then more water. When we have a supply, we have to fulfill those supply, and then once we have energy supply increase, we will need to increase our usage as well, and then these causes increase in carbon emission as well as wastewater. So when there is a connection, a change in one leads to a change in another. And the World Business Council in 2013 stated that when you have an energy problem, you also have a water problem, vice versa. So why are we interested in water energy carbon nexus? Because in the recent year, the population growth has become a very important issue. And then once the population grows, economy grows, as well as urbanization follows, the living standard becomes higher. And then to accommodate these changes, we're using more resources, water resources, and more fuel, fossil fuel. And then these changes are causing the depletion of these resources. And then according to WWDR report in 2014, 90% of the global energy production is water intensive, using 15% of global water withdrawal annually. And when we have high energy consumption, this will cause a pressure in energy supply and security, and this was called pollution and climate change. So water, energy, and carbon emissions are closely related with high complexity, and these three resources are required for the growth of economy. And with the climate change being the hottest issue in the 21st century, we need to achieve the sustainability. We can achieve sustainability in industries by increasing the efficiency between water and energy use, and by reducing the greenhouse gas and hydrocarbon fuels. And it's also necessary to understand how water is related for energy use, energy is required for water use, and how greenhouse gas can be reduced by conserving water. And we need to investigate the water energy carbon nexus by examining as a whole, and then we need to quantify water and energy resources. However, there are only a few studies on these nexus, water energy carbon nexus. This is because of the lack of data. So by assessing the water energy carbon nexus, it will provide the understanding of relationship between water and energy and carbon, which will adapt to more sustainable strategies for industry. And this will also satisfy the knowledge gap by taking water energy carbon element as a whole. And this will also help industry to set target on their resources and so that they can reduce their carbon emission. This is the objective. The overall objective is to analyze the water energy carbon nexus in selected industry, and the specific objective will be to identify the water energy carbon footprints of selected manufacturing industry and to analyze the potential for reducing carbon dioxide in selected industries. So the scope of the study, first we identify the relevant industrial sectors and company. Once these companies have been identified, we collected data annually, water use data, energy use data, carbon emission data, as well as revenue and production, and as well as the background of the company from reports, annual reports, sustainability reports. And then we did an analysis on water energy carbon footprint in the manufacturing industry. And once it's done, we develop a multilinear regression between water use, energy use, and carbon emission. And then we develop scenarios for potential to reduce the carbon emission. And then after that, we determine the potential to reduce carbon emission by reducing water and energy use. So this is how the data is being collected. First, we look for companies that provide their data and companies that have the similar production nature, companies that produce similar products. The resource consumption has to be the same, as well as literature. So we selected these industry and companies, and then data is collected for 10 years through at least 10 years through sustainability report, environmental performance report, corporate social responsibility reports, and annual reports. So this is the description of how data is collected. In the first column, we have the company name. And then in this column we have a brief description about the company, and then this column shows where the company is located and their production plant are. And one of the main important criteria that we look for in data collection is the product they produce. We try to choose companies that have similar products being produced, and then data collection for all the companies' water consumption, energy consumption, carbon emission, product and revenue data are being collected. And here the collection of data is from 2009 to 2019, at least 11 years. And these are the sources from where these reports are being collected. This is for cement industry, and this is for chemical industry. This is for pulp and paper industry, and this is for steel industry. And this is the location. These are the location maps of where the production plants are. Location map A is for automobile industry. B is for cement, C is for chemical, D is for pulp and paper, and E is for steel industry. So most of the companies are located in Europe, parts of Japan, and Southeast Asian region, as well as in the United States. This is the methodology of the study. First, I did literature review, and then from the literature review, I notice which companies to collect data from, and the data is being collected from the criteria above, and then footprint analysis was conducted so that we can find energy footprint, water footprint, and carbon footprint of the products. And then from the data collected, we can develop a relationship between water, energy, and carbon. And then we can develop scenarios for reduction of water and energy uses, which will lead to objective 2, which is to find the potential to reduce carbon emission by reducing water and energy use. So the methodology for objective 1, this is how water footprint is calculated. A water footprint is defined as a term as water use per ton of product produced, as well as water use per revenue. So when we want to calculate water footprint per ton of product produced, water consumption during the whole entire production process of the product is taken and then divided by the amount of product produced. And for water use per revenue, simply it's the amount of water consumption during the production process of the product divided by amount of product being produced times the amount of product produced divided by revenue. And this is for the energy footprint. And energy footprint is defined as energy used per ton of product produced and energy used per revenue. For carbon emission, it's defined as carbon emitted per ton of product produced and carbon emitted per revenue. So this is the methodology for objective 2. We develop carbon as a function of water and energy, and we develop scenarios for reduction of water and energy uses of 3%, 6%, 9%, 12%, 15%, and 20%, and we find the potential to reduce carbon emission. So these are the results for water footprint. And as we can see, for a pulp and paper company, the water footprint has not changed dramatically over the years. And however, in automobile industry, Daimler company has a very prominent decreasing trend in water footprint over these 11-year period, whereas Evonik in chemical industry is having a very prominent increase in their water footprint. And for cement industry, like pulp and paper industry, it has a very somewhat stable footprint throughout these years. And this is water footprint measured in terms of per revenue. So steel industry does not have a very prominent change. So does cement industry. And in terms of revenue efficiency, Nissan company in automobile is doing quite well, and as well as Evonik has an increasing trend in water footprint per revenue. For energy footprint per ton of product produced, Daimler has a very nice decrease in their energy footprint. And steel company, although most of the steel companies are on a decreasing trend, Hyundai and JSW companies have an increasing footprint throughout these 11 years. And for energy footprint per revenue, most of the companies have somewhat stable footprint throughout this period. Although Lotte Chem has their increasing energy footprint, so does Hercules General, and then Asia Pulp and Paper, POSCO from steel, and FCA are having their energy footprint decrease over these years. These are the carbon footprint. For carbon footprint, most of the companies are decreasing their carbon footprint, especially Daimler. So Daimler has a very nice decrease in carbon footprint throughout these years, as well as CSC and LG Chem. And for carbon footprint per revenue, the automobile industry and most of the companies automobile industry is having a decrease in their carbon footprint per revenue. Although cement industry is on a rise, but not very prominent. So these some companies for steel industry, most of the companies have a constant energy carbon footprint per revenue. It means that this either means that these companies are really carbon intensive industry, or they have reached to a level where they can, this is the limit of how much carbon they can emit. And this is the summary results of how water footprint, energy footprint, and carbon footprint in manufacturing industry. And we can see that for water footprint, chemical industry, pulp and paper, and steel has high water footprint per ton of product produced, and for per revenue, these three industry has high water footprint compared to other companies, other industry. For energy footprint, steel, pulp and paper, and chemical has high energy footprint per ton of revenue. And steel, pulp and paper, and cement industry have high energy footprint when you measure it by revenue. And carbon footprint in these steel, pulp and paper, and chemical is high compared to other compared to cement and automobile industry. And this is the results that shows which companies and industries are energy, water, and carbon intensive. So for water footprint, the most according to the among the all 5 industries studied, pulp and paper is the most has the highest water footprint, followed by chemicals, steel, cement, and automobile. So for pulp and paper, when water footprint measured per ton of product produced, Nippon, International, and OG companies have high water footprint, and as well as when you measure it by per revenue. And then for energy footprint, energy footprint and carbon footprint, steel industry is has the highest footprint compared to other companies industry study here. So the most energy intensive company is JSW, for JSW, Nippon, and JFE, and the most the company that has the highest carbon footprint is CSC, JSW, Nippon Steel, and JFE for carbon footprint. And the least among all the 5 industries studied, automobile industry has the least consumed the least energy footprint and water footprint and carbon footprint. So these are some of the actions that companies are taking to reduce their water their footprints. For water use, they are recycling their wastewater, using their processed water, reducing freshwater requirement target, mapping water risk map to see which locations, which production plants are having water issues, harvesting rainwater, benchmarking their water use, and installing water efficient equipment. For energy use, the companies are setting their reduction target for like by 2030, they have to reduce their energy use by 20%. And installing LED instead of traditional lights in their production plant, installing energy efficient equipment, benchmarking fossil fuel use, increasing renewable energy use, and installing control systems. And these will be the results for objective 2, which is to find the potential to reduce carbon dioxide emission by reducing water and energy uses. So we develop a relationship between carbon with respect to water and energy. And then we have the R square. So for companies that have R square lower than 0.5, it is considered insignificant and therefore will not be used in this study. So for this, BMW, Daimler, Tangyo, Exxon, International Paper, and CSC companies have R square lower than 0.5, and they will not be taken for the next to see the potential to reduce carbon dioxide emission. So this is the carbon dioxide emission by reducing water and energy uses. For automobile industry, if we reduce 3% of water and energy use, we can see that for Audi, we can reduce about 3%. For FCA, we can reduce about 4.5%. And for Nissan, we can reduce about 3%. So if we reduce 20% of our water and energy use, we're going to reduce carbon emission by 10%. For Audi, about 25% for FCA, and about 20% for Nissan. So, and the most prominent reduction that can be seen is in steel industry, 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫 company. If we reduce 20% of our water and energy use, about 45% of carbon can be reduced for 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫 company. So on this table, we can see the average percentage reduction in carbon by reducing water and energy uses. So for automobile industry, if we reduce 3%, an average of 2.6% can be reduced. And for 20% reduction, we can reduce about 18% of carbon. And then for chemical industry, only if we reduce 3% of water and energy use, only 1.9% of carbon emission can be reduced. And if we reduce 20%, we can reduce only 13% of carbon emission. And for steel industry, if we reduce 3% of water and energy use, we can reduce 3.5%. And if we reduce 20% of water and energy use, we can reduce about 23%. So for conclusion, most of the companies are decreasing their water and energy, are on the way to decrease their water, energy, and carbon footprint. Chemical, pulp and paper, and steel industry are the more water-intensive companies among all the selected industry. Cement, pulp and paper, and steel industry have high energy and carbon footprint. And steel industry has the potential to reduce carbon dioxide emission by 23% by reducing water and energy uses, while chemical industry has the lowest potential to reduce carbon dioxide. It's only 13%. When 20% of water and energy uses are reduced, an average of 18% of carbon can be reduced among all the industries. So the recommendation is that climate change has an irreversible effect and carbon emission must be reduced. In order to reduce an average of 18% of carbon emission in industry, energy use and water use should be reduced by 20%. And availability of water differs according to their location, employee habits, water scarcity, the policy set by the companies, climate change, and other factors. And these factors are not taken into the study due to the limitation in data. And future recommendation will be to consider these factors when developing research. And the result from this research can be used for policymakers and users in understanding the flow of water and energy consumption and how water and energy can be used to reduce carbon emission. And if the companies provide more detailed data on water use, energy use, and carbon emission for, let's say, for water use for specific processes throughout the whole entire production stage, much more complex information, much more complex and quantitative analysis can be conducted, and this will give opportunity for companies to reduce their consumption and emissions. And lastly, further studies on water, energy, carbon nexus can be done through life cycle assessment and system dynamic modeling can be done to study the environmental impact caused by water, energy, carbon nexus. Thank you.
So thank you, Ms. Mon, for very interesting. So may I request everyone to give an applause to her first, visibly, and then also like audibly. So I may open the floor for questions and comments, please, everyone. Hello, everyone. If you have questions, please unmute and then just ask questions. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Santosh Chungana and I'm a research associate in WEM. So I have a question that Mon showed that, okay, for a few industries, be it automobile, be it steel, be it cement industries, she showed that some industries have increasing trend, some has decreasing trend, and some has stable trend in terms of water footprint, be it energy footprint or be it carbon footprint. So is it because of the increase in production of the materials they supply, or is it because of they have, I mean, okay, similar production throughout the year? Why is it, I mean, the changes for some company, it's inclining, for some it's declining. Why is it so? Can you please answer that?
Thank you very much for the question. Some industries are, yes, some companies have increasing trend, some has decreasing trend, and some are very stable. And for increasing trend, different companies have, even though they're producing similar products, have different processes in between them. And different processes means they will require different amount of, the water use and energy use will not be similar throughout these processes. And also, it depends on the employee themselves, how they are using the water, the management system. And some industries, some companies, they are doing water recycling, all these initiatives to reduce their water use. Although they are reducing it, the process they use when recycling water, it consumes more energy and more water, and they still need to improve that aspect. And some companies, they have stable footprint throughout the year. This is because they are either energy or water or carbon intensive industry themselves, or they have reached to the maximum level that they can reach, this is the least amount of resource that they can use to produce their product. And some companies have decreasing trend because of the management system. Some of the companies, they replace the old equipment with newer equipment, which will consume less water and energy uses. And some install automatic system throughout the whole entire processes so that there is no waste. And then leakages in the industry are also one of the main causes. So some of the companies took care of the leakages in the industry, in the production process. So these are the reasons of the increasing and decreasing trends and constant trend in production processes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mon, for a very informative response. May I invite more questions? May I invite Grace?
Hello, good morning. I am Grace, a master student from WEM. For me, it is interesting to know that these companies really release their sustainability reports to the public. So it is good to know for my part. And were there challenges that you faced during this data collection process, or did you have to make contact to the companies themselves to verify something or something like that?
Thank you for the question, Grace. The main challenge in this research was collecting data. I did not have to contact the companies directly, and all of these data are collected from the reports published by the companies themselves. And it's difficult, although there are many companies providing this information. Some companies, most of the companies do not meet the criteria that I set for this research. Some companies have their sustainability report only for 5 years. Some companies do not provide water use data in their sustainability report, but they have energy use data. Some companies do not have the similar product, or some similar products they're producing. They're producing cement they're producing cement as well as energy, so the production is not the same. And data collection was a challenge, and it took me about 2-3 months to collect data. 2-3 months to collect, yeah. So that was the challenge that I faced during my research. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Mon. And thank you, Grace, for a very, interesting question, because, with COVID in place and, everything is haunted, it's very good to know that there are a lot of open source data that we researchers can tap upon and then can do research without having to be affected too much about the traveling constraints. So indeed, it is a very good to know. So we still have time for one more question. May I invite one more question?
Hello.
Yes, Subhash, please.
Yeah, it's me, 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫 𝐁𝐚𝐬. I'm research associate working under Professor Sangam. And just right at the moment when I see this work by Moon, I like the way she presented and data sources from different companies and different sectors. I was going through the report of the World Bank, which shows the annual CO2 emission by sector. And I found that the transportation sector has the highest CO2 emission according to their data. But when I see in the result from this research, we found that automobile industry has the lowest carbon emission CO2 production. So how would we justify the result that we achieve according to the past literatures? And is there any problem in the data, or how come this difference appear in, from the different data sources? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. For the carbon footprint, this is the data provided by the company themselves, and the drawback of this is that the data provided is is the overall, like they say that for the production process, so they will emit this amount of energy, they emitted this amount of energy carbon emission. So and then this so generally the thing is, if we have high energy consumption, high energy footprint, we will have high carbon footprint. So that is how. And then based on other reports and previous reports done by different researchers, this energy intensive, carbon intensive, and water intensive industries have been validated based on the previous researches done as well. And in some reports, it is stated that automobile, chemical, cement, these industries are also carbon intensive as well.
Let me clear on one thing. Like when we go for publication, then we need some kind of validation with the similar kind of result. So we have, you do have the result. If you can go to the slide, that according to the industrial sectors, automobile sector has the lowest emission. So if you could provide some of the literatures, maybe there were other past literatures that could support your result, then that would be better. That was what I was expecting in your presentation also. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your suggestion.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, please, Sanjeev.
My name is 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫 and I'm currently a PhD candidate in water engineering and management. So basically, I'm not asking question to Mon, but I'm supporting her like for Subha's question. So I think the report that Subha's read that the carbon emission is higher by like for automobiles or cars. Yeah, it's true, but in Mon research, I think that it is during the manufacturing process, and the report that Subha's read is during like operation. Like the automobiles, vehicles, like they emit more carbon like during the operation period. It's for sure, but I think this result shown by Moon, it is during the manufacturing process. Is it right, Moon?
Yes, during the production process only.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Sanjeev. Yes, I mean, like those interactions are very, appreciated, like not only with the presenters, but also like this is the open floor for everyone. Okay, so everyone, so the time is right. So I would like to say thank you, Mon, again, and then one more round of applause to her for a very interesting and insightful presentations. So with that, I would like to close this WEM seminar. May I request everyone to turn on the video, and then I will take a picture and gonna post on that for this very memorable moment. Okay. Okay, so everyone, yeah, we're still waiting for some more. Suchitra, suddenly, can you open your video? Hello, Suchitra? Okay. Santosh, can you open your video, please? Okay. Suwas, are you able to open your video? Okay.
Sorry, my laptop is...
Okay, yeah, it's okay. So, Mr. Sonokumar, can you turn on your video for a photo session? Okay. So, 1, 2, 3. Cheese, everyone. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a nice lunch. Yeah, and then we'll see each other again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, everyone.